Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this video we're going to be making an acronym generating program. And our objective is to create a program that generates an acronym from our input into the computer. So let's get right into it. So as you can see here, I'm using PyCharm. I've created my acronym program, acronym bar in PyCharm. So if you have not yet downloaded it, you can download it on JetBrains website. So the first approach we are going to take is to take our input as a string. Now, and when we take it as a string, we want to add the first letter of the string to our output and then iterate over the full string, add every next letter to space to output, then change the output uppercase as our final step. So we have basically 4 steps we have to take in our program. I have them listed here. So we're going to create a function called acronym. And as is the case with Python, we're going to give our function an argument or a parameter, and I'll give it the parameter name, because acronyms are used to generate are often generated from the name of an organization, a person, and so on and so forth. So let's give it parameter name. Now let's create a variable called output. So we'll call it output, and then we initialize our output to the first letter of name. And for us to access the first letter of a string or a list or any element that contains several others, we use a bracket. So, and as in most programming languages, the index of the first letter is 0. So we access the first letter through 0. So there we have it. We have done our first step to take our input as a string. Our second step is to add the first letter of string to our output. This is what we have done. We assume that our input is a string, that's the parameter name. Now the first letter of name, we then add it to output, which is a variable that we created. Our next step is to iterate over the full string, and for us to iterate, we use our for loop. So we have for I in range and our range will be from the second letter to the entire length of a string, and an argument or parameter or argument is name. We use a semicolon as is standard in Python. Then we'll say if name, the index, is equal to space, if the index of the letter is equal to space, we'll then say output should be incremented with name I plus 1. That's it. So what we have done in this loop here, in this for loop, is to go through our entire string of words and then look for space, and then for every word that is we find, every index word that we find that is equal to space, what we do is that we then take the letter after it. That means the word plus 1 is letter after it, and we assume that that letter begins another word, so we pick the letter as part of our acronym. For example, we will have, so let me comment, we will have something like World Health Organization. So let's assume a program. Let's follow step by step and see our program generates an acronym from this. As we have seen, as I said earlier, when we write the index of each letter, the first letter is index 0. So what our program will do from the first line is to assign our input to a variable called name. Then our program will say, okay, so this is a name, so we assume this is our program takes this as a string, then it just extracts the letter index 0, that is the first letter, it extracts it, W. So our output initializes to W, that has been extracted and added to output. So what our program then does next, as we can see in this for loop, is that it starts from this from the second letter, that is the letter index 1. So every second letter is index 1, the first is index 0, the third is 2, the fourth is 3, the fifth is 4, and so on and so forth like that. So since we have extracted the first one, our program then goes to the second one, which is index 1, to the entire length, the end of our program, or toward the end of our program, because the last in the range is usually not countable. We don't really need to go to the last one. So what we now do is we iterate from the second letter to the end, and for every iteration, as you can see here, we look for space. So if our program goes here and says, okay, this is not space, this is not space, this is not space, this is not space, now this is space. What our program now does is, when it finds that this is space, then the letter after space, it then extracts it and adds it to output. So that's what we have here. The letter after finding space is going to be extracted to output. Then it continues, then finds another space and sees another output, sees another letter to extract, and then adds it to output. So it adds it to output. Then it goes all the way, and doesn't find another one, and it quits. So this is just the basics of how this program works for us. So what we're going to do now is continue the program. Now we have done the third part, that is to iterate over the entire string and add every letter after space to our output. Now, what we now need to do is to pick up and continue. So we say acronyms usually come in capital letter, uppercase. So we convert everything to uppercase. So output is equal to output upper. So in Python, to convert to uppercase, we use the upper method. Then what we now do is we return a so we return output. So we return output and leave to space. So basically the engine of our acronym program is done now. This is the engine behind our acronym program. So what we now do next is to write some unit tests for our program. So we say print, or we call our method acronym, then we assign a name. So let's assign a name, word, organization. So we now print, write several tests and see how it does. So acronym assign. So these are tests for our program. So we're going to run it now. So we run it. Oh, there we have it. Gives us wallet organization and AMD. If you didn't know the meaning of AMD, the famous chip manufacturer, the full meaning of AMD is Advanced Micro Devices. So basically, this is the first method or approach to an acronym generating program. So in the next video, we'll see the second approach to this program.